Well, disappointed. I think what started out as a very impartial process took a turn to a very partisan outcome. I mean, there were a few votes here and there that, probably um, maybe caught some votes by surprise. There were a few Republicans that voted on some articles, and then there were some of us that voted against some articles. So I think the outside influence from third-party groups on the Republican side certainly had an impact. And, this is the new normal now in the Republican Party.
Why do you believe those outside groups had an impact?
Well, I know there was an enormous amount of pressure being put on some of my colleagues, whether it was on social media or they were getting a lot of text messages. I know because I was sitting next to some of them and they just couldn't believe how much people were applying pressure. So it's unfortunate, but like I said, this is the new normal now in the Republican Party.
What kind of pressure did you hear that they were under? Did they confide in you that they were feeling?
No, I mean, they were, if you look through social media, you can see some of it, but they were getting, messages and calls to their offices. I mean, we were a jury. Nowhere else does this happen like this. You don't see outside groups calling jurors and trying to influence.
What did you make of the Lieutenant Governor's speech at the end where he criticized the process in the House and called for reforms to be made on that side to make sure he said this never happens again?
I didn't think it was the right time and the right place for that. He's entitled to his opinion, but I thought that should have been dealt with outside of the chambers.
I was going to ask, during the deliberations, how much did you feel like your colleagues are really weighing the evidence versus going in there with a predetermined decision?
I think a majority of members were doing their diligence, reading, looking at other cases like the Ferguson case. We went back and looked at videos, looked at the interview, for example. Some of this was rather lengthy. The interview, it was a 2-hour interview between some of the folks in the OAG's office, Penley, Maxwell, Nate Paul, and his attorney, Wynn. There was a large group of us that looked at that video, revisited our notes, revisited exhibits.
Was there a key piece of evidence or a couple pieces of evidence that was when you said, okay, I'm voting to convict? Was there a couple moments that stand out?
Oh, there are several. Certainly the Uber records, that was something. The sequence of events with, I guess, the whistleblowers, what took place with them, that was very compelling. I thought they gave some very strong testimony.
I just wanted to ask, you said the group of you went and watched this video together. Were there any Republicans in that group?
Oh, sure. It was a bipartisan group.
And just, I guess, just to kind of paint the picture, because we didn't get to watch the deliberations, obviously, but was it like everybody around, one big round table, or were you in little groups, or what did that look like?
They sealed off the entire second floor, so you had the Betty King room you could go into, you had the Lieutenant Governor's dining room, and then you had the chamber. And at some point, I think most of us were in the chamber at our desk or huddled up. We had exhibits. Those that are lawyers, a lot of us were going to them and talking to them about specific articles. For example, I had questions about, a few articles, and after talking with lawyers on both sides, reached a better, I think, probably decision than where I started out.
Which article do you think garnered the most deliberation or discernment? Was there one that was the most compelling to most people?
Well, the one that had the widest margin, I think it was 22-8, Article 4 it was, and that I think you saw most Democrats except 2 that voted against that article.
Mm-hmm.
When you said that those of us who are lawyers talked to them about...
No, I'm not a lawyer.
But you talked to them about exhibits, who were you talking to? Republicans or talking to
Both
lawyer
sides.
senators? I was not clear.
Lawyers on both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm.
Did you at any time sort of canvass? Was there a canvass among the senators to say who's where? Or how did that?
No, our rules did not allow us to do any polling, but just, watching, listening, observing, you could kind of tell where things were going.
Were there any speeches that were made?
No.
Did things ever get contentious back there?
No, not that I was around.
How could you tell where things were going, you said?
Well, you heard from members that, so-and-so is now reconsidering their positions, and, you do the math, you can kind of figure it out, so.
But this was like not all 31 all together at all the time.
Right.
There were different groups. And
30.
All 30,
Yeah.
right. There were different groups in those three different
Mhm.
spaces you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. But at some point, the majority of us were in the chamber, and a lot of people were sitting at their desk or at the tables where the exhibits were, and people were taking notes. I mean, I myself took 3 notepads full of notes, so.
So there were tables with binders of exhibits, essentially? And then where did you watch that video, not to belabor the point, but was that?
In the Betty King room.
Okay.
Mhm.
Was that last night? Was that kind of a late night viewing?
No, well, afternoon. We had a set time. I mean, we were going to allow people to go in there and do it at their leisure, but then the video was 2 hours long, so we said it's better if we set a time. Anybody that wants to come in can do that. So.
At what point did you know that deliberations were over and you're ready to take a vote? It doesn't sound like there was some aha moment.
Last night, yeah. And still today, they were doing their due diligence and checking, are you ready to vote? So,
Yeah. Do you think, speaking of 30, not 31, do you think some senators' relationship with Angela Paxton played a role in how they were considering these things?
I don't know.
We also saw something online about the threat of possible sequestration inside the building. Do you think that kind of helped speed things up a little bit, or?
Well, we were never going to have to spend the night here. He made that very clear that we were going to be able to go home. So, yeah.